Well, of course, we were supposed to get together to do some outlining and workshopping tonight, and as a result of the weather, we didn't get a chance to do that. So first, let me say that the slide that's coming up here will teach you how you can send me an email or you can call me if you have questions, and I'll be more than happy to give you feedback that way. But first, here's some of the questions I was going to have you think about as a group, and you can still ask them of each other within your group before and after you get feedback. What were your assets and strengths? What do you think you did best in the outlining? What do you like and want to keep? Think about where you can actually improve. For example, is there any place where we might have gotten ahead of ourselves instead of thinking about practices, roles, and principles? And what about the ingredients? Did we actually stop and think about the actants, the people, the technology, the big ideas, and the relationships that we needed to have using that A&T frame? Have we thought about whether or not our community of practice, the actual team that's going to be going out there and doing this work, has done things like define our values and our roles and our big ideas, very similar to what we talked about earlier? And what have we done to talk about how we're going to build our culture? Did, for example, we pause to show appreciation for other people? Have we given other people space to talk, think, write, and digest? And did we reflect and learn from things that we tried before? For example, now that you've got this feedback, are you just going to say good enough, or are you going to do something to demonstrate that you've learned from it? Then the next and final step is describe what you'll actually do with that information. What would you do next? So be concrete. In other words, focused on actual actions. Think about using your energy and resources to do what is going to work best without necessarily the biggest investment. People often choose the most detail-oriented, time-intensive thing, even though it's not going to produce the most results. And they often forget to pick the lowest hanging fruit, the simple stuff that can be the most effective. So that might be a framework for you once you get your feedback to stop and think about what you're going to do with it. But I would strongly encourage you not just to settle on where you are at this point. And remember some incredibly important points about all of this work. The temptation is to do more, to add more bells and whistles, but less is more. Think about when you go and buy a product, how simple the average company's logo is, or how clear and simple their slogan is. They're almost always 3 words. And there's a reason why. If you add a whole bunch, it's harder for people to absorb and translate and port to one another. So keep it super simple. For example, this sign is about as simple as you can possibly get, and yet it has that semiotic meaning that we've talked about. It says a lot, and it's portable, and people all over the world understand it. Trust the process. Don't be afraid if things don't always come out the very first time you sit down and talk about them. It's normal for people to go through things in messy and sometimes repetitive increments. So give it a bit of time to digest. And often what will happen is when you come with a half-baked idea, somebody else will finish baking it. So don't be afraid to let others in the hive add to your idea. Don't worry about whether or not it looks neat at first, or whether the order makes sense to other people, or whether there's elements of repetition. You'll come to obstacles along the way, opponents, people who don't agree with you. I believe in a principle called no left turns, which is the other reason why this sign is up here. It's a little reminder to me that while I'm sitting there waiting in traffic to make a left turn, I could just make 3 right-hand turns and I'd be back on my way a whole lot faster. Gets me to the same place. So if you have people out there who aren't taking your call or aren't responding to your email, find somebody else who will. Go look at a plan B, C, D. There's almost always another way to navigate. And once you start to pick up speed and have other people join you, it's amazing how often that person that didn't respond to your call suddenly wants to be a part of what you're doing. And stop, look back, and celebrate, not just within your group, but make that part of your community development exercise. People love to come to parties. So if you could think of something to actually celebrate, you'll probably attract a lot of attention. I said I would give you my contact information so that you can email me with questions or to show me things in draft format, to give me ideas or to run ideas past me. You're more than welcome to email me at that email address, or to call or text me at the other number. In fact, a really wise thing to do is to send me a text just so that I'll know to check my email, and then that way I can usually get back to you pretty promptly. Don't be afraid to be reaching out to me more than once. I prefer when people give me lots of little things I can actually give feedback on than looking at something where I can tell they've done a ton of work and getting a lot of feedback that might be difficult to absorb. So it's much easier to give bits of feedback along the way and help people to change their practice before they get too deep down the rabbit hole. Well, that wraps up these videos. Hopefully they're helpful, and I'm sure Kirsten will be pointing out more ways that you can get help using the Blackboard platform. But hopefully this has been helpful. I've really enjoyed being with you guys, and we'll see you on presentation day.